Hey everybody, Coach Marcus and Coach Scott here from CrossFit Active Performance. Today we're going to be spending some time going over the pull-up, various different progressions, the standards, positions, and some tips for those movements. Scott's going to be leading the show here. I'll be his lovely assistant. Go ahead and take it from here.
Yeah, so we're going to start off with showing a couple of different types of pull-ups. So there's a lot of variety out there. We think there's a lot of validity in every type. We practice every type of pull-up here, and you want to be good at all of them. You don't want to just be stuck on one set or don't progress past a certain limit. So we're first going to start off with what's not really a pull-up, but a lot of people refer to it as a pull-up, is a chin-up. So Marcus is going to hop on up with a supinated grip, so his hands are facing his face. He's going to hang at full extension of his elbows. He's going to keep his belly tight, and he's going to pull his chin all the way up and over the bar. You'll notice his chin clears the bar, and he comes right back down. The next movement we're going to do is a regular pull-up. So hop on up, and by default, if someone says pull-up, this is what you should see. You're going to have a grip that's pronated facing out. He's going to pull his chin all the way up and over the bar, staying nice and tight, and right back down. So that's a pull-up, right? And that's what everybody traditionally thinks of as a pull-up. We also add to it in CrossFit a couple of different types of kipping pull-ups. Most common you're going to see is the butterfly kipping pull-up. People use that in competition a lot. That's the stuff that shows up in videos. But starting point is usually with a more traditional gymnastics kip. So with a gymnastics kip, it all starts with a hollow position, controlling with the midsection and getting a little bit of momentum out of that midsection. So we'll go ahead and hop up and show us a couple of traditional kipping pull-ups. And you'll see Marcus moves a lot quicker. You can go ahead and drop down, and he moves a lot more fluidly on that. The whole point of a kipping pull-up is just to move from point A to point B with the power of the human body as efficiently as possible. A lot of people look at that and think, oh, that's cheating. Look at all that movement. It's not cheating. That's like saying running is cheating compared to walking. It's just a different way to move your body from point A to point B using what you've got available. So walking is good, running is good, strict pull-ups are good, kipping pull-ups are good. The next pull-up you see is a little bit more efficient but takes a little bit more power, is a butterfly kipping pull-up. So Marcus will show us a few reps there. And you'll notice that the rhythm is just a little bit different. Looking good. Go ahead and hop down. And we'll cover that in a little bit more detail. But what we're going to do now is we're going to just break down a couple of key positions that you're going to see as a theme throughout all of these different types. And then we're going to show you some progressions on each of those types. So I'm going to have Marcus lie down on the ground and show us what we call a hollow position. So go ahead and lie down. And he's going to have his hands at his side, his feet at his side, and he's going to hollow by just controlling his midsection. So go ahead and show us a hollow position, right? So in this position here, he's got his abs turned on, his shoulders and head off the ground. Go ahead and relax. Now he's going to do that again. Go ahead, and he's going to stick his arms out and above his head and put his arms back. You're going to notice that all the hollow comes from here. It doesn't have to do with his arms out. It doesn't have to do with his feet out. He can even keep his feet on the ground and bring his shoulders off the ground and right back down. So it has nothing to do with the limbs. So a lot of times when we say hollow position, people automatically kink their legs right up at a 90-degree angle, or they start flexing their shoulders a lot. All it has to do is flexing the abs, bringing that rib cage a little bit closer together. So show us the hollow without using your limbs again. Now stick your arms out, and now show us a rock where you can maintain that integrity. He's getting motion by controlling that midsection, and there's no movement in the limbs at the hinge points, right? Go ahead and relax. Now he's going to roll on over and show us what we call an arched position. This is the opposite of the hollow position, and this is also key on a good pull-up. So go ahead and arch it up. Looking good, and right back down. Now arch it up again, and hold your arms out, and put your arms back. And you'll notice the hollow and the arch stay the same principle, right? He can even keep his toes on the ground and lift his head and shoulders up, and he can lift his legs up, and he can lift his arms out, and he can put them all back down, and keep that arch going, right? And then relax. Looking good. Go ahead and hop on up. So the key is all in the midsection, lower back, midsection, lower back. Control front to back comes from here, not a hinging of the hip and not a swinging of the shoulder. So if Marcus hops on up here, go ahead and hop on up here facing out. Watch your head. He's going to stay tight in his belly here. He's going to shorten his rib cage by flexing his abs. Show us what we don't want to see with that hinge of the hip. Bring the hip up. That's a hinge of the hip, right? We don't want to see that. Go ahead and relax those hips completely. Now flex your abs. There you go. Like I'm going to punch him in the stomach. He stays nice and tight there. Curve comes out of the back. Now in this position, he's going to switch to the arch. He's going to flex back here. And then he's going to flex his abs. He's going to flex his back. Abs back, abs back. See if he can keep it going. You're going to know that he's controlling with the midsection and not hinging the hips, because he can come to a dead stop whenever I say so, like now. And go ahead and get back into it. And hold. Right? He can relax and do it just like that. Hop down. Now the thing you'll see a lot is people swinging out of control, because they usually initiate by throwing their legs around like a pendulum, like a weight at the end, right? When we start doing that, you're not going to be able to stop yourself like Marcus just did there. That's a good way to check yourself. Are you kipping or are you swinging? A kip should be able to be stopped in control anytime. So go ahead and hop on up and see if you can get an out of control swing. You know it's going to be pretty tough for you. Looking good. Now if his swing He's even doing a good job there. And then he can still stop himself, right? So if I hop off, let me see if I can do it. If I stick my legs out, right? A lot of people will start here. There's no way I can stop myself. Even if I hold still, even if I flex my hands real tight, I'm still moving. That's the key that we want to try to avoid is using the midsection, not throwing the feet around like a weight, right? So with those two positions, we're going to try to apply that to all the different movements. Our first thing that we're going to look at is using the strict pull-up. And most people will progress to that here, at least, by using a ring row first to replicate that same range of motion. So Marcus is going to go ahead and hop on these rings here and just going to lie himself all the way down. And he's going to be in what would look like an upside down push-up position, right? He's stiff as a board. He's going to have full extension of those arms, and he's going to pull all the way up until he touches the chest and right back down. All the way up until he touches the chest and right back down. Looking good. Go ahead and back it up a little bit to make it easier. So if he backs those feet up and gets a bigger incline, it's a lot easier for him to get that range of motion. So you'll find where you will get that challenge point where it's going to be difficult but not impossible to get sufficient volume in to start building a bit more strength in that pulling position. You'll notice when he pulls in that position, stiff as a board, hollow body position, no arch in the back, and he's also getting a full range of motion, pulling those arms all the way behind him, getting a good scapular retraction, just like you would on a chest to bar pull-up if you were pulling all the way through. So that starts there. The next thing we would do is use a band, and we would start working on the banded pull-up from up here. He would get a strict pull-up going with the biggest band that he needs at first, just to get that chin over the bar and full extension, getting a sufficient amount of repetitions. He'd work to a smaller and smaller band as he goes. Once he's got maybe 5 or 10 here, then we'd start integrating the kipping movements into workouts. Find to practice the kipping movements, find to get your first pull-up with the kipping movement, but doing them in high volume before you've got stability here or on the strict pull-up is probably a little bit dangerous. So we try to get people to focus here and more on the strict pull-up first, and then eventually build higher volume with the kipping pull-ups. So now once we've got our strict and our ring row covered, we're gonna get a little bit more into that position that we were talking about with the kipping pull-up. So Marcus is gonna go ahead and hop up on a bar here, and is again gonna show us that arch to hollow position that we were working on before. And we're going to try to find what we call the lift point by getting arch, hollow, and he's going to find a part where he can actually get his hands weightless off the bar for a split second. That happens by automatically tossing those legs forward, contracting those abs aggressively, and he's going to find that lift point. That lift point is that moment of weightlessness that you're going to take advantage of and get that huge aggressive pull to get that chin up and over the bar. Once you've got that timing right by getting that hollow arch, and pull, then you're going to get that chin clearly over the bar. When we talk about over the bar, we don't mean vaguely pointing at the bar or kind of as high as the bar or a couple of feet out in front of the bar. We mean literally over the bar. We'd like to see it someday in competition, one of those garage door sensors where there's a laser going across the bar in the game so we can actually count reps as people's heads cross the bar. But until then, we've just got good coaches keeping an eye on that bar, making sure you clear that bar. So Marcus is going to show us a couple of good reps where he's getting that hollow arch, and getting all the way up and over the bar. And I want you to notice how he comes off the bar. He actually pushes it away like he's bench pressing it away. And then we'll cover why he's doing that in a second. Go ahead and show us what that looks like. Looking good. Clearly over the bar, pressing away at the top, getting his arch to contraction, looking solid. And the reason why he's aiming for that, if we look at this and we think of this as kind of a metaphor for what Marcus is looking like. If I hold on tight here, that's Marcus's grip on the bar. This is Marcus's arm. This is Marcus's body down here, right? If he's in this position here and he's getting his good swing going, he's got his hollow arch, and he brings it up into a pendulum position, clears his chin over the bar, and then comes back out with that big press, he swings right back into a nice smooth pendulum, right? Swinging out, pendulum in, pendulum out, pendulum in, pendulum out. Where a lot of people will lose the rhythm is they get a great pendulum up and then they clunk down at the bottom. They drop straight down. They don't get that press away at the top. You lose your momentum. You also kind of jerk your shoulders out of the socket and you could do a little bit of damage over time. So to keep it smooth, you want to get up but push away from the bar so that your arm comes a full extension while you're out in front of the bar. Smooth swing into it, smooth swing back up. So Marcus, go ahead and show us a couple more reps just like that so you can see what we're talking about. Notice the smooth pendulum out and the smooth pendulum back in. No big jerking motion on those shoulders. Looking solid. Go ahead and hop down. So that's what our kipping pull-up looks like. It's a real aggressive pull here. Occasionally you'll see people teach this with a little bit of a hip hitch, really tossing those feet. Imagine like tossing them over a hurdle. Sometimes people have you laying on the ground doing a big arch of the back. Marcus, go ahead and show us what that looks like. Or maybe over on this bar here is tall enough for you. Just getting that big swing of the hips to get those hips high enough on the bar, right? Maybe turn around and show us one from the frontal view. Really just tossing those feet up and over the hurdle, right? Notice he's popping those hips way out front to get that pull going. He's getting an arched position going and everything. Go ahead and rest there. That works It gets the job done, and you'll find a lot of people will default to that near the end of a workout when they're just beat down and they can't get a beautiful, smooth, gymnastic style kip going anymore, and it's just anything goes. They'll just hurl their feet up in the air, get that big arch going. A lot of people will get their first pull-up looking just like that. It's okay. It's an adequate move. It's functional. As a climber, I use that movement all the time in real life, but it's not something we want to use in higher volume, and it's not very efficient because you got to lift a lot of weight and throw it forward to get his upper body tipped toward the bar. So we're going to try to avoid that as much as we can and try to focus more on controlling here rather than getting that big hip hinge every time. All right, so the next thing we're going to cover is everybody's favorite. Everybody wants to jump right to the butterfly pull-up right off the bat. We usually try to reserve this one for the people that have demonstrated sufficient power and volume in a kipping pull-up, show that they got shoulder stability. First thing I like to do is kind of cover it from the upper body down. A lot of people start with the bottom part, talking about like a backwards bicycle and stuff. It gets a little confusing. So I'm going to have Marcus hop up on a box and show us how we can control with the upper body first. So he's going to grab a nice grip on the bar. He's going to come to full extension. He's going to pretend like he's not on the box. He's going to mimic the movement of a good butterfly pull-up here by pulling himself all the way up, getting that chin clearing the bar. And now, like we talked about that pendulum, he's going to swing forward of the bar just a little bit so that he pendulums back into that position. You notice that there's no big clunk in this movement, and he's just going to move around, keeping his feet on the box so that he's kind of controlling his pattern all the way through, just getting that circular motion. And when you see it from the side, you can really see that circular motion. There is no linear movement here. And now once he's got that, go ahead and hop down. We're going to talk about the lower body. Practicing that over and over is a great drill. Working on a lower and lower box so that you're getting less and less help from your feet is fantastic, but eventually you're going to have to get weightless, and then you're going to say, what am I going to do with my feet? I think the best thing to think about is just getting your butt, or your heel to your butt, and giving it a good kick. So go ahead and show us what that looks like. Just bring your heel to your butt and kick it. So you're coming down and up and down and up, and just get a couple of those. That position right there, we're just kind of kicking it up. If you've ever flicked up a hacky sack or a soccer ball, it's that same exact motion of kicking something up towards you. So once he's got that motion there, we're going to try to get that motion going on the pull-up bar and see what that looks like. So go ahead and let's use this one here, and we can see it from the back, face this way. So he's going to get his heel to his butt, and he's just going to kick, 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 kicking forward, and pause right there, drop, and then try it one more time, and then you're going to come in with a sweep underneath and kick it up. There you go, and he's going to get higher and higher and higher once he gets comfortable with that rhythm, and you're going to notice he gets lift. And if he lowers himself, less dramatic pull, he can still keep that little kick going. Kick and pull, kick and pull, kick and pull, right? So that's what we're looking for, to get that nice, smooth kick and pull. Once you got that kick and pull, you're going to be looking at getting closer and closer to the bar. That's why I mentioned earlier we like to practice chest to bar as often as we can as a full range of motion. We want to get all the way up and touching that chest to bar on almost all of our reps. That's where we want to head eventually. At first, we allow everybody to get that chin over bar, but we've got all this range of motion left, so why not use it? So we practice the chest to bar as much as we can, which keeps us to a good standard on a butterfly pull-up. If you don't use a chest to bar on the pull-up, on the butterfly kipping pull-up, then you're going to have to really swoop underneath the bar to avoid catching your chin, and that's when you get kind of those creative looking pull-ups that barely count, where the head's way out in front of the bar, just kind of glides underneath and never really crosses the vertical plane of the bar. So if you're practicing butterfly pull-ups, we'd like to encourage you to practice them only chest to bar, and you're going to get a lot smoother and get a lot smaller circles, much more efficiency there. So once you've got those basics covered, really starting in that order, starting with the ring row, working to the strict pull-up, working to your first kip, getting a solid gymnastics kip, controlling with the core, eventually working your way up to a smooth butterfly kip. All of those are great, but you got to practice them in progression, and all of them rely on a tight midsection, really strong core. So a couple of key points: keeping the feet nice and tight together and flexing the butt instead of letting the legs flail around in all different directions really controls a lot of that energy, makes you have a much more snappy pull at the bottom. Working on things like the hollow rock, like I had Marcus in the bottom position before. Working on GHD sit-ups to a partial range of motion where you're coming to full extension and coming back up, but not over extension and coming back up. Also going to be great for really driving that dynamic strength in the midsection. So those are your tips and your practices and your progressions. We're going to be working on those a lot, so stick with it, and if you got any questions, you know who to ask.